looking truck.
As a kid growing up, I was very into fixing my own cars and taking them apart. And so from cars and just being an automotive head, Transformers, it kind of struck me as something fun to work on.
Watch out, get out of the way, I'm rolling cameras. Ready, and IMO guy, go. Ready, and send him, Kenny.
Michael Bay does know his cars. He's pretty particular about the cars he wants. He knows a lot more about cars than I do.
Not too fast.
We started last September, October, having meetings with Michael, trying to figure out what the Autobots would be, what vehicles we would use. And we downloaded every picture of every car that was available.
We started kind of addressing the major car companies.
Listen, when you're making a movie for $145 million, sounds like a lot of money, it was tough to fit this movie in that box.
And you couldn't afford to do this movie without a sponsorship, and nobody could come up with what GM has. For us, it is about, the sexiness of their cars.
I went to GM and I got into their skunk works there. It's a place, I can't tell you where it is, but that's where they make their stealthy concept cars. But I saw this car. They didn't know what kind of car it was going to be, but now it's the Camaro. And what I liked about it, it kind of had a retro look. It was a muscle car, and I just, right then and there, I knew it was Bumblebee.
Bumblebee was, in the 80s, a Volkswagen Bug. And his role has always been kind of the younger of the Autobots.
We knew that he was originally a Volkswagen and a Beetle, but it was not really an option for Michael because it wasn't badass enough.
I just was never going to use the Volkswagen Bug for Bumblebee. It just wasn't going to be in my cars. It just reminded me of Herbie the Love Bug.
But we do make nod to it in the movie because if you notice on the parking lot, the Camaro is actually parked next to a Bug.
This is a classic engine right here. I sold a car the other day.
Oh my God.
Gee.
Bumblebee, we said, as long as he's yellow, let's find some cues that will harken back to what people remember, but let's not have that be as far as you can go.
I think the Camaro, the old Camaro, is really cool, and it's a nice beater car.
The quintessential Camaro is a '69. Everybody's been a million of them hot rodded, and so I kind of wanted to find that, like the cheesiest version of the Camaro that'd be perfect for this kid's first car. If he didn't have any money, he would never go out and be able to afford a '69.
This is a Camaro, 1977 Camaro. Nobody wanted them, nobody needs them, they're hard to find. This one was pulled out of Palmdale, the other two were pulled out of Oklahoma. We're gonna redo them, repaint them, new engines, everything redone so that Kenny Bates can drive the heck out of them for his stunts.
So this was kind of like, the perfect dichotomy for the new Camaro when he rescans.
Why does he transform back into this piece of crap Camaro?
That Camaro is really spectacular. I wish they were bringing it out earlier than they are.
There were only 2 Camaros that were hand-built by GM. To fix that car is a big deal. If you smash a fender, you just don't get another Bumblebee fender because there aren't any. All the parts were individually made. It's a 3-stage paint. If you get a ding in the door, you have to paint the whole door.
That was a pretty trick door latch. No indent, no recessed area. Everything's slick.
It's a $500,000 car. So it's not like, hey, go around it doesn't happen like that. There's wipe your feet off before you get into the car, keep your hands on the steering wheel, push down at a certain rate. You want me to go faster? I'm just nervous about the car. I can go faster if you want. Just I'm having to keep my...
Don't go faster, just go a little more center. You are not a stunt driver, okay?
This is where we were parked, originally.
I know. You can say everything you want.
Michael, oh my goodness gracious!
Let's go, come on.
All right, right here in the center. If I crash into the wall, it's not my fault, because I'm an actor.
But it should be like this, the transformation. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Hey, guys. Next, Jake. We're transforming on 3. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Okay? Ready?
Jazz is a character that was always a sports car.
Now he's not a Porsche 911 anymore. He's a Pontiac Solstice, but he's still a cool sport car.
We had a little company do some aftermarket. We made a hard top for it. We put the little ground effects fairings, we put a little spoiler on the back and some louvers on the hood, and we kind of just jazzed it up a little bit.
Ratchet in the 80s was an ambulance, but it was more of a van shape ambulance. It was more of a Japanese version of what an ambulance is.
Ratchet was the kind of H2-based ambulance, which doesn't exist, that we kind of designed and built from scratch.
We started with a stock GM H2 Hummer, and which we gutted and took all of the existing components from the rear apart, and then we're building the cages that will be sheeted to look as the search and rescue vehicle should. Also applying all of the roll bars, roll cages, the heavy-duty bumpers to give it that beefy look. Wheel and tire packages. And the accessories that will, fall in line with the search and rescue vehicle.
Ironhide was this big, 4500 series GMC.
They're brand new, they just came out, and they gave us 3 of them.
We got them from the factory black. I made that tailgate that had the Autobot logo embossed into it, added the stacks and all the running board, and modified the bumpers and stuff. I mean, that truck, unless you're standing next to it, you have no idea. It's like so big, it's crazy. It's like the biggest thing you ever saw.
There's Optimus.
I saw a picture of a truck, and it was lowered, and it was blue, and it had flames on it. And I'm like, that's Optimus Prime. With Optimus, literally, we got every car book, every car pictures. It was just all over the walls.
We looked at the cartoon. Thank you very much. And then we just started pulling reference of different big rigs. This is what we were always, everybody in this department was conceptualizing how Optimus is masked, what he came out of. This is the main dude, so we should go look at it.
Okay. Instead of buying a new truck that's a $150,000 truck, we bought some older trucks, and they were pretty beat up and they were pretty ugly looking.
Well, this is like a redo. You know what I mean, Ian? Yeah. How are they ever going to make this thing look like that?
I said, just trust me, this is the truck that it should be Optimus Prime, not a new truck. This is the one.
So we're going to completely strip it, paint it, flame job, new fenders, new sleeper, new bumpers, lights, yada, yada, yada. And when it comes out, it'll be beautiful.
There's been some debate about some of the changes that were made. The flames on the side of the car and the fact that it's a long nose instead of a flat nose truck.
I like the flames. And what the flames did when he was transformed, it kind of looked like ribs, and it just, to me, it looked cool.
One of the things I've learned is red doesn't photograph well for the feature films. The light being what it is, and it's a nightmare. Michael Bay was nice enough to explain that to me. So we made this compromise where we wanted a red chest, and we did that by the flames, so that we could still retain the essence of Optimus being a red truck while, still making it easy to shoot.
just a much more aggressive-looking truck. You know, it's like more dual, you know, more homage to Steven. Looks better on a wide angle when it extends back, you know. It's just a much more badass-looking thing than a flat-fronted, you know, trash truck.
And again, it goes back to that thing of when you actually see it and you see what's required of the transformations and the level of detail, we weren't going to be able to have as exciting a transformation with the flat nose.
Okay, guys, come on. Let's stop admiring the truck. Let's shoot, shall we? This is a truck that we sold on eBay as soon as I'm done with it.
Let's set up for this, please. Back to one, Joey.
This movie, I had more cooperation from GM than any movie I've ever made.
They promised us they'd give us the flood-damaged cars, the non-saleable cars, the cars that Michael Bay needs to wreck every day on a daily basis for his food chain. We burned, crashed, flipped. Probably close to 200 cars.
Yes, we're going to try. I'm going to try and go to the
We had like 30 or 40 cars sent to the shop and stripped the engines and transmissions out and put the pick points on them and the plates on them for us to flip and throw. And we do that all on the day, wherever X marks the spot.
We have this catapult, and then we just run a cable out, hook it up to the car, and then we, with the use of high-pressure nitrogen, we can fire. It's the same way a plane is launched from an aircraft carrier. We do this exact same thing, only on a smaller scale, and it's all like portable. And we'll take that anywhere on the set Michael wants to go, and we'll launch cars.
Screaming everywhere, screaming. Ready, on, roll camera. Ready, on, 3, 2, 1, action!
When is that building?
Get out of the building, folks! Don't get out of the building! Fred, hey, Rick, can go in there? Look up there, please. Fred, that's it, keep the lock up. Thank you very much. Guys, walk away, please, film crew. Thank you.
No one does car chases better than Michael. I mean, they're incredible. Like, they're at Mach 3, and, you feel like you're right in the middle of them.
One of my shooting styles is using this little go-kart thing, where it goes very fast, like 100 miles an hour, and it's a very small vibrating camera that's real low to the ground and looks like a suicide vehicle.
And we use that for anything from running down the street to chasing cars. It's a very powerful tool for getting in and around and close to the action. We use it quite a bit.
Fun, huh? So good. All right, let's not clip it now. Let's not clip the shutter.
Thank you.
Let me play that back again.
It's pretty crazy being in the go-kart. I mean, because you're responding quick, and any mistake and you could be in a lot of trouble.
Tell you, I'm never going to be doing another highway chase again because I've now done highway chases till the cows come home.
I wanted to transform right under the on-ramp, all right? So the next on-ramp is where we're going to start the transformation. Okay.
The highway chase is huge. I mean, we have tumbling cars, we have crashing cars, we've got cars upside down hitting cars, we've got scraping cars.
But this one will top most of the ones I've ever done, because now you got robots transforming at 80 miles an hour on a freeway, and I don't know how you can top anything like that now.
All right, let's go try one, shall we?
Yeah.
We try to put the audience inside the action. So they're actually eating cars, they're actually in the crash.
Come on, let's go. Baybuster, follow me. Watch out, watch out. Yeah,
We use the Baybuster, that crazy triangle car that can actually take direct hits from cars.
The Baybuster is a pickup truck with a cage on the outside of it, and they mount anywhere from 2 to 4 cameras on the front. And if we have flipping cars or cars being thrown off the top of car carriers, I mean, we normally drive the Baybuster right into it. It's great for the audience. That's part of that eat the action that the audience gets to see that's not CGI.
It's like most directors would have chose when we ripped that bus, which is an extremely dangerous stunt, I mean, really dangerous. Most would have just done it either miniature or CG, and it just wouldn't look as good.
I mean, the bus sequence is something that we've never done before, and I really had to push to get that to happen.
That bus, we have 6 exploding bolts holding the cab together in the center of the bus, and then we have big cables underneath pulling it together, holding it together. We cut the cables and blow the bolts, and the actual bus cracks in half like an egg in two pieces. There's a stunt driver and drives the front away because it's going to drop down on another set of wheels so he can still control it. And then the back half has those same cannons in it that we're going to fire at 1100 PSI, 3 cannons, and the back half of the bus is going to flip away. Wow, it's going to be really cool.
We're gonna pop the cable, which is the first cable pulling it. Then there's another cable wrapped around him, and it's gonna take about 3 seconds for that bus to pull like that, and then we blow the thing. Once we pop the cable, it's all automatic. Richard, you have the bomb in your hand?
I have a bomb.
Yeah,
I have a button on the floor, yes.
Okay, so Richard...
Has to be there. Releasing the first cable when the bus comes out from under the bridge and gets into the sun.
Come on, we're gonna make this an epic.
Come on, guys, let's do this. Let's go. F this. Let's go. Come on.
Copy that. Yes, let's go.
Come on, guys. Someone get in this charge vehicle and have it started, because we're moving in position right now. Move those cars forward, Kenny Bates.
So we put Richard Epper in the bus, and I drove the Bay Bomber and chased it with 4 cameras on the front end. But no one really knew what the bus was going to do.
All right, guys.
Kenny, how'd it go, man?
It went pretty good. You said it cut in half, right, Mitch?
Yeah, no.
Half the bus here and half of it's over there.
I think it worked out really well, and I think it's because effects did an excellent job on prepping that bus for us. So it's like those guys are the guys that made us look good on that one.
The main thing is my good friend Richard Epper's safe, and that's all I think about going down there. In the end, it's just a movie, but it's a Michael Bay movie, and that's what we do. You get the bang for the buck when you're with Michael.
Yeah, actually, no one was hurt on this movie. I mean, we've had a really spotless track record for such a long time, and you know, knock on wood, because by the way, it's just a dangerous business. What we do, what they're doing, is dangerous.
Way too high. Okay, a little high.
I'll be right there. The location department on this movie has really excelled.
I'm gonna say and fire, okay, guys? You can hear me, right?
It required pretty extraordinary sized things, whether it's white sands.
Fire!
Or the Hoover Dam.
We're gonna shoot something quick, and we're gonna go to lunch, and then we are going to go downstairs.
Or downtown LA. When we finally saw what a 32-foot robot looked against a 2-story house, suddenly you realize you've got to find places that are enormous to make these things feel part of the environment.
You can't leave the trucks on the road. That's what I'm led to believe.
What?
On the side of the road.
Because?
Behind the dunes, so we can't see them. There's going to be a mini base camp down there, right?
Yeah, we're working on that right now, just to find out how we can make it firm enough to work in progress.
Every day is a roller coaster for me. I don't know if it's the same for every department, but you know, I find myself on the verge of tears one minute and then hysterical laughter the next.
Ilt, a new guy I worked with, I thought I was going to give the guy a heart attack.
I have a question.
Yeah. He's just, I can't get the observatory. It hasn't been shot in 5 years. And I said, it's a big movie. You can do it. Go to the mayor's office. You can do it.
This is the path. See right in there? This is where he's running, and the Black Hawk's gonna come right up on that edge there.
Can we even see that helicopter running there?
Yeah. Player?
Yeah.
It should be okay.
But I can't get the bridge with 4 helicopters underneath. I said, you could do it. Go to the mayor's office. It's a big movie. We're keeping this film down in California.
We structured the budget in order to keep it in the United States, which is not to say that the movie couldn't be made elsewhere. It's just, I think, easier and more comfortable for Michael to have, you know, a crew around that he's used to.
Hey, Dave. Yeah. I think we'll let them fire this way so you can whip. You guys handheld. You can at least kind of like in here, keep it like, you know what I'm saying?
I actually cut my fee so that I can shoot here with my crew that knows how to shoot fast and is good on the fly.
Right, so it's good to go. So as soon as the plane hits the ground and stops, we should pull the vehicles forward. Michael likes to go hard and fast. He has the shock and awe approach to scouting, which is supposed to be... Oh no, that's not Michael, that's a stealth bomber.
Morning, Michael.
Jack.
Holloman Air Force Base is an extremely secure base with a great deal of secret goings-on.
Yeah. I mean, this morning, you know, we had a guy with an M16 protecting the AWACS because even though they know that they're here for us, they're still very protective of their aircraft.
Almost 3 to 1, okay?
If the American military is called on, they will fight enemies abroad or even alien robots, if need be.
You don't want scrub brush by it, you know, tumbleweed, whatever, okay? I can show you how to get some better shots. What's that little...
Driving into the center of White Sands, which is 300 miles. It's not literally sand, it's a crystal. To see that for miles and miles, there's no other place like that on Earth.
White Sands missile range was created for the atomic missile tests in the 40s. And we had to make sure that there was no chance of somebody literally stepping on a landmine. So we had to engage the services of an unexploded ordnance company to mine sweep to a depth of 4 feet so that we could build our Bedouin village and then, ironically, blow it up.
When we got here and laid out the buildings, we realized that the dunes were moving. So the valley was actually significantly smaller, up to 30 feet, because of the wind.
Very hot. We had days 115, 118 degrees.
That's the max so far. It could get hotter.
That's compounded by the fact that the sand there is really just white quartz that's washed off of the surrounding mountains, and it just reflected like glass.
God! Hot! I'm from Puerto Rico, so when I was told careful, New Mexico is pretty hot.
Oh, yeah!
I go, I'm from Puerto Rico, how hot can it get?
It's hot. Almost had heat stroke yesterday. That's kind of wild.
It was hard because they had a lot of gear. Go! And running and yelling and shooting. Because on my sets, it's like, especially if you do military stuff, it's tough. I'm not like a very cushy director in terms of if we're here, because I shoot really fast.
Men did huge work here, bigger than anything I ever seen Hollywood ever do or ever will. Look at these cranes up here. We're heading from the top of Hoover Dam down into the turbine area, where it's very, very cool.
When you see it, you have no idea how big it is. Hoover Dam is just massive.
We had to do some sort of remedial work because a film that shot there last year didn't endear themselves to the Hoover Dam by buzzing the dam.
It's a grave situation, gentlemen. Thank you for being with us.
Good. Good again? Good. How's it gonna leave it? Ready? Something like that, how much?
They really weren't into it at all, especially, you know, given Michael's penchant for blowing things up.
So we, worked out with the Hoover Dam. We'd get certain hours early in the morning where we could be up on the top of the dam.
Got it if you can, brother. Okay. Trying to get back over there. They say it's over there. It's like gold. Okay, here we go. Okay, we're going down. Time to take those ramps down with us. Push down, push down. Come on, Scotty, you and me right here.
And then as soon as the crowds came around 10 o'clock, we had to then go inside or down below. So we just scheduled our way around it, and it actually worked out fine.
Both of you guys go on this side.
20.
Where's John's tail?
You're not puking, are you? The scale of the Hoover Dam was a tall order. There's not many places you could do that because everything there is so gigantic.
I think we became very familiar with the architecture, which allowed us to build a set that tied into it.
What is this?
When I looked at this Megatron hangar, this illustration, I'm like, that's the vibe of the movie right there. And it's amazing how one or two illustrations can just set the vibe. We use the playa hangars where Howard Hughes built the Spruce Goose. And it's this great wood structure. It's kind of narrow, but it's very tall ceilings. You're able to build a lot of different sets so you can go back and forth, in this kind of huge space, but it's kind of separated, and it's a great place to film.
Basically, we were sort of using the structure as it was, and then embellishing and sort of making it look like a vintage facility again in a subterranean setting under Hoover Dam where Megatron was frozen in ice. Even though Megatron had been encapsulated in this space for many, many years, he's still being maintained. So it was a little bit of like new technology mixed with old technology. Very much like Hoover Dam is. When you go in, there are things that have never changed in there.
The first time I walked onto the Megatron set, I said, wow.
Megatron.
I had my son with me that day. When he saw Megatron up there, his jaw just dropped.
I was so impressed with it that on my weekends I would sneak onto the set with my friends just to see it.
He was 30, 35 feet, and he was only half built.
Like, I'd bring 3 or 4 friends, you'd be like, you're never gonna believe what they just built. I never do that. I never do that.
This baby's the first we found.
You want just to lay that, or so you can watch?
No, you're all right.
Okay. So I just do it, but just louder and more off the cuff. This baby's the first we found. Boom,
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Okay, ready? Step up. Kenny, you right? Here we go, guys. Ready? And 5, 4, 3, 2.
The day that I saw that set, I suddenly went, oh Lord, this film is going to be everywhere. That was the first day that it dawned on me that I was shooting a really big American film.
I had to shoot in Los Angeles. Now, Los Angeles, they'd give us 4 blocks one Saturday. They'd give us 3 blocks this Sunday. They'd give us those other 4 next a weekend from there. And then we shot at Universal Backlot. And then I shot in Detroit. And I had to all make it feel like it's one place. So you had to keep the scene in your head. I mean, you just had to wrap your head around it.
Downtown LA is a venue for this kind of action stuff.
We'll go on 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blow up.
Go hot, please.
Going hot. Here we go. Guys, he's right up by this building right here. Ready, and he's right on top of you, moving around. Ready, in 3, 2, 1, action. Let's.
Piece of crap.
Ready, and roll camera. Rolling. Hey, legs, fire in the hole. Let's go, guys. Don't move too soon. Ready, and 3, 2, 1, and action. Not yet. Up, up, up. Hey, can you take that light right down there and light that tortoise thing up there?
The toughest bit was flying the helicopters under the bridges. For lots of reasons, not least of which is the Homeland Security thing. If you fly helicopters under 500 feet, then the FAA makes you jump through a lot of hoops because of the potential for crashing into neighbors.
What are you doing?
We're getting pissed on for the next 3 days.
You know, the helicopter's flying low, kick up all the water from the LA River. Nobody knows exactly where that water is coming from.
See all this water right here on the floor? It's all man piss, okay? And what happens is a science thing. When you put helicopters over a puddle of man piss gets all over your man body.
So we all had goggles and face masks on, so you don't breathe it or taste it.
Just piss all on my face, all my features, piss on my arms, piss all over my own piss. It's just nasty.
Right, Deaver?
Oh, yeah. It's been a location-heavy movie. It's been a great challenge, and it's funny how, the rose-tinted glasses effect applies. I remember I've been on other shows where I finished, I thought, God, thank God that's over. But as time goes by, you sort of somehow mentally edit out the bad bits, and you remember the times when there were bombers flying over your head, or just being out in the sand dunes late in the afternoon in the beautiful sort of evening light.
Optimus you think was a Decepticon? Maybe one, maybe none.
Decepticons are actually very fun, because they're just wicked.
It seemed to serve the story better to have military vehicles being the real theme of the Decepticons as opposed to too many tape decks or a gun or things that were clever and great in the cartoon but a little bit unfocused for our purposes.
Michael has a pretty good relationship with DOD, and so it's kind of interesting that we're using all the military in this movie in the robot form are bad guys.
I'll be honest, I had to sort of pitch this to my chain of command in that there's Air Force aircraft as bad guys.
All right, ready? And the first two, go, go,
Because of Michael's relationships in the past and, you know, Armageddon and other films he's done, the thought was that Dealey would get the help of the armed forces in the end.
You see, the Air Force cameraman, I keep trying to tell him, turn, let me show you. I'm trying to change his style. See, he's a little rigid. Everything's like this. He looks like that, walks like that. It's rigid. Oh, look, whoa. Now he got a little MTV style going. See? By lunch, he's got a little MTV style going.
And he loves the military. He knows how to portray the military to make us look good, and so it seemed like a win-win. And people love bad guys. The fact is, I mean, what's cooler than Darth Vader?
I've always been like some of the first to shoot military hardware. In Armageddon, I was the first to shoot the B-2 bomber. Then this movie was the F-22s, which are the new $130 million amazing stealth fighters.
Starscream was an F-15 Air Force jet back in the early cartoon days. And back then, the F-15 in the 80s was the quickest and the fastest and the baddest thing around. Well, fast forward 25 years, the F-22 is now that aircraft.
Rolling. And roll cameras. Roll cameras. Ready and action.
There we go, look at that. All right, let's do that again.
Reset. Very good work, everybody. Reset.
Let's do that one more time.
What the Air Force has done in this show is shown us all of the good toys. Brandy new stuff that really hasn't even been put into the field yet.
Is there any hand signals that the crew guys in the front give? Anything you give at all? Any hand signals? All right, I want to do some hand signals. We're going to come right by you. Guys, go back to the crew. What kind of signals do you guys give?
That aircraft is just phenomenal what it can do. There's war games they play where they'll send, 3 or 4 of those things out against 20 or so current F-15, F-16s, and it's not even a contest.
Target ID.
They can fire on enemies that are beyond the curvature of the Earth. They can track and fire on things that are 270 miles away. So those guys are dead before they're even within visual contact of that plane.
So it's just very fitting that Starscream, who's the air commander and second in command, takes that form of literally the baddest weapon system in the world right now.
We have Blackout, which is a MH-53 helicopter. It's a gigantic troop transport, mean-looking helicopter.
Just looks badass, like the Cobras are kind of slight, yeah, they carry a lot of firepower, but as far as just looking big and menacing, the Sea Stallion was like the logical choice.
Yeah, I got my fire suit on, baby. I'm directing.
Ready. 1, 7, 6, 5, 4.
I can't think of anything remotely this huge that the Air Force has been involved with, not only in screen time, but just the amount of aircraft and people and shooting on bases and everything that we've done.
What we're gonna want to do is we want to stack you guys up. So with long lens, we'll make you look very close. You know what I'm saying? So we'll put you kind of like this to each other. Like a little bit over there and that a little bit. We're stacked up with the sun, all right? Coming over the tower. About 300. The tower is actually a good place to come.
Airbus, Osprey 17, do you want airplane mode or conversion mode on this?
Left. Correction, right. Right. To me. Come on. Right. To me. Right.
Oh, yeah, baby. Right in the golden glow. Lower.
Yeah. Bring him down.
Send him away. Turn him around.
Bring him down. Another pass. Take it around.
Well, I was also the first to use the Ospreys, which are for extracting soldiers. It's kind of like a helicopter plane. It's like these gigantic helicopter blades. Looks very dangerous, if you ask me. And they actually rotate down and become gigantic propellers that angle forward and can go about 300-something miles an hour.
Come back, please.
Warthogs were a very interesting kind of plane because it's kind of eerie, because they get very low and they're just got this whine to it.
Are they coming, Josh? They are. Good. Okay, come higher up. Come higher up. Right now, guys.
And it's got a lethal cannon on it. You know, it's a creepy plane. If you're on the ground, you don't want to be there if it's shooting at you. The military gave us the use of the Spooky, which is a C-130, specially equipped, like 18 guns. It's a thing they use to shoot Taliban in Afghanistan. It's a vicious old plane, but it's very lethal.
The 49th Fighter Wing at Holloman is the home of the stealth fighter, the F-117 Nighthawk.
Well, they scrambled the stealth fighter, like 50 of them staged there, so we had them all rolling around, and it was crazy.
It's still a very sensitive aircraft. The technology that is involved with it's still very top secret.
I don't want you filming from that angle, please.
We had to just basically make sure that certain protocols were kept in mind, that you couldn't film it that way, you couldn't get close to it this way. And once again, the production bent over backwards to make sure that they followed all the rules.
Our tax dollars happily at work.
One of the things that a lot of people don't understand, that all military support is on a cost basis. This costs the taxpayer absolutely nothing.
The movie pays for any costs of the aircraft and personnel that cannot otherwise be used in training missions.
If a helicopter is flying and it costs X number of dollars per hour to fly that helicopter, production company reimburses it.
Technology that the government allowed us to be around, and some of the tools they allowed us to use, you wouldn't be able to get anywhere else in the world.
These are target practice tanks. What they do is, this one is a mock-up of a fake foreign tank. So their targeting systems can pick out friend and foe. When they shoot them in the missile test range.
At Holloman, they have what's known as a tank graveyard, and there's probably 1,000 tanks and self-propelled artillery pieces and stuff like that. And the first time I took Michael in there, he was like a kid at Christmas. It was like, can I have that? Can I have that? Can I burn that? Can I blow that up? You know, absolutely. You know, you want.
Which one do you like the least?
The least?
This one? Yeah. Because
you want to burn it?
No, something a little more wicked. Anything?
No, all right.
Peace. Peace. Violence.
Yeah.
The tank was something that had already been modified by another show. Somebody owned it already, so we modified it and came up with a cool paint job that was cool, kind of non-radar detectable paint job that was based on some camo that we saw on this futuristic battleship image.
We found on the internet this minesweeper that the military uses. They send to Iraq, and it's very cool. It's called a Buffalo, but we call it Bone Crusher.
How fast does that Bone Crusher go, by the way? 50. It must take forever to get there, right?
The image that they used to promote this vehicle had this shot of this arm extended and this big multi-tined fork foreground in the shot. And we finally get the data on this machine. And it turns out that this fork is like 14 inches wide. And they totally cheated the whole thing in Photoshop. This giant thing coming at you, you know, that looks like it could lift up a bus, is like this big. We're like, what? You know, so we basically made this appliance that goes over the existing one that more replicates the version of the machine that we had been reacting to.
Originally, the police car was an Autobot. It seems like, to keep with our theme of all the Decepticons seem to take on the disguises of authoritarian vehicles, military jet, tank, a police car. It seemed like a good change. So barricades in there as a police car.
Slide the headlight forward and then bring the other arm over. Overtake the headlight. So the idea being to start
the light a little.
Barricade is a really fun character. He's wicked and mean.
Okay, all right. Okay, stop. I'm sorry. Oh, God. Okay, all right. Okay, look. Stop.
One of the first thoughts we had, of course, was to include Soundwave in the Decepticons. And as in our first draft, we actually did have Soundwave. We started to realize that we were not really servicing that character in a way that was going to make us or fans happy. And so we said, rather than doing it wrong, let's actually create a character who is a distant cousin of Soundwave's. And that's how Frenzy was born.
Frenzy is a boombox that transforms into this wicked little 3-foot-tall, vicious-looking robot. This was something that I invented.
We did an animated Frenzy. We wanted to see, did facial studies on how his eye stalks moved and how his mouth moved and how his mask came out of this little boom box, you know, so we did some exploration with that.
We started with the computer design puppet, and we had to go back and retrofit and make those things that look mechanical in design actually be mechanical, and take it apart and kind of work backwards.
What they'll do with the full-size mechanical version of this is that when you bring it into the set under the lighting conditions, it's also going to help out with the CGI guys so they can see how an actual real item would react in that environment.
1, 2, 3.
Mostly it's something to interact with the actors because they would have to be fighting against nothing.
Exactly. Quick. You gotta learn that quick.
It's from the Robot Spring Collection. It's real nice. It's a new scarf. DreamWorks bought me. I just put it on when I get cold outside. That's all that this is.
There's more where that came from.
Megatron was represented as a pistol, a very realistic-looking pistol that in Japan actually shot little pellets. That mechanism didn't work in the US, but that worked well for a villain in the 80s.
For us, we didn't want anyone shrinking, particularly the bad guy. We realized that for him to do that would be the equivalent of Darth Vader turning into his own lightsaber and having someone else swing him around.
It's a movie. You have to update. To keep it in the 80s, that'd be great for the 25 of you on the internet, you know? But for the world, it's like, you cannot have Megatron as a gun.
Join them in extinction!
Megatron transforms into kind of an alien plane.
Because he's the most arrogant and vain of the whole thing, and because he doesn't have to really hide. He's one of the only Decepticons who actually goes from his protoform right into his alien jet protoform.
What came up was just designing this kind of alien craft, which would hearken to what is happening on Cybertron. So this was a way to show how truly foreign these guys are.
There's this Decepticon called Scorponok that's tracking them, and he's tracking them under the sand.
it's Jaws, but it's in the desert. And we were actually looking through one of the books of all the characters, and we kind of went to, hey, there's a scorpion in the desert.
And Scorponok is perfect too because he's also sort of different than the other Decepticons. He doesn't particularly turn into a vehicle or whatever. His form is very much about the environment. The Scorpion is great for the desert, and it's sort of a good, you know, shout out to the fans of like Beast Wars, and some of the incarnations of Transformers are a little bit more animal-based than vehicle-based.
In pre-production, they built all these animatics, so they know anything that has a lot of action-y stuff, or there's Transformers coming through, or, you know, you're being chased by one, or whatever it is, they have these animatics built, the computerized sort of animation of the scene before they even shoot it.
Scorponok was one of the ones that we, in the department, animated completely in 3D. You know, like, I wanted to have the notion of these components from the Sea Stallion helicopter, which is basically what he is birthed from. So he has these kind of Sea Stallion helicopter components to him, and the turbines for his hands, and I wanted to see how these things could turn and how that he could dig in and then shoot the sand out the exhaust. All those things we developed in the department because we thought it was just a bitchin' looking scorpion.
Like these, but there were some that didn't look that were taller than that.
These are target practice?
Right now we're at Holloman Air Force Base in Alamogordo, New Mexico. It's actually a very active military base because they do a lot of support work for the war effort in Iraq right now. Since it's a missile range, everywhere you go, there's the chance of live ordnance.
You go to this fence on the Scout, and it says, don't walk in. Live ordnance could be possible, unexploded bombs, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. So we step over the fence, and it was weird walking. And I kept walking, you know, but looking down. And so we actually had a minesweeper clear when we shot there for a good 5 acres.
You see a little bit of go, and then the two mandibles. Kenny, move over this way. Yeah. But the idea that they bust through and then hit the wire pulls them away, you know?
Probably no matter what, you want them on, you know, either side. And let's, you know, it'd be nice, whatever he does, it should be small and build, like a crescendo.
We are on Holloman Missile Range. Don't pick up anything with a red tip or that looks like a bomb.
I'm gonna light this town up, baby. Ready!
In New Mexico, we all had a really good time. We blew up hundreds and hundreds of pounds of black powder and thousands of feet of primer cord.
See, there's where I told you about wetting it down with the chunk. You see the chunks in there, Michael? Good.
We had primer cord, which can take down a tree or destroy a car. It's a little like rope-like explosive. I had them lay out like 200 of these strands so that they can fire it on a millisecond thing where it's like, it makes it look kind of like a wave coming at you.
They put the high explosives on, then they put just carpet on top of it, and then they put sand on top of the carpet. And when this was ignited in a sequential order, the carpet just lifted up and it bounced the sand high enough. And it gave Michael the exact look that he wanted.
Hands up! Cut. How was that, Dave?
Pretty good.
Huh?
Good.
Were you still in it when it was falling?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. Thank you.
There were a lot of bombs, a lot of explosions, a lot of strafe hits. There were people flying through the air. We had guys on Ratchets.
So what happens in this shot, besides me squinting like crazy, is Scorponok is running through the ground. Do. Of course, I'm not the smartest ranger, so I'm looking around. He's right behind me. Thunk, right through the chest, and then clunk, takes me back and eats me. Apparently Decepticons eat children. Ta-da!
The idea is we're trying to time the sand so the burst out happens with Scorponok. We're imagining where his entrance point would be in the sand. At some point we might change our actor into a CG replicant of this guy to be able to manipulate him.
That was cool. That was cool.
All right, let's go to the tail, please.
Michael wanted a Scorponok's tail slithering through the sand.
We just made a whole track right out of plywood where it actually had a groove in it. They put the lightweight plastic down, and then you put a razor blade in front of it, and as Scorpion is going through it, it just cuts that path.
Something, little piece.
All right, guys, I'm going to show you an animatic what we're doing. It's a pretty cool shot. It's a trailer shot we're doing right now. Hey, watch this. It's the one where he jumps out. So I need you running. It's right on you. You know what I'm saying? So you've got to have that in your faces. All right? All right. Trailer shot. See? Trailer shot.
Which camera am I running towards, Mike?
You're running towards that umbrella, guys. That umbrella is where we're running, all right? But the actors, they had to run, and I'm like, Tyrese, don't trip, because that's a real explosive. If it goes off, you better run.
All right, y'all. This is it, Jack. The trailer. Full throttle.
I mean, this is more heroic. You know? Action! That fear on their face was them being real. And I said, just remember to, at one point, to look back and look up. Were you still screaming?
Oh, yeah, you better believe it.
That's great.
I think
that was really
back.
good. Did you get anything?
That's how we do it, baby.
In each of the shots that we set up, we have to have a representative size for Scorponok.
We want to mark where this is, where the trench is.
This is the ILM sphere. Gives us a lighting reference for every environment that we're in. It helps the artist back at ILM to correctly place all the reference lights and shadows and kind of match everything and make it look like it sits back in the plate.
3, 2, 1, action.
You can see in the plate, we had a really good elements to start with in this case. And anybody that works in CG knows that sand is one of those things that you just, the minute you hear that, you start to think, oh, you know, the particle work that's involved with sand can really drag out. You can see in this plate right here, as these primer cord elements go off, we get this nice plume of sand here. And what we've done is taken that same thing, left it in the plate, and added our robot inside there and sort of buried him in depth. And then as he comes forward, we reveal more and more of him.
Oh, what is that?
You know, it's not a bad job.
There's a lot of success attached to what Michael does, and there's a lot of careers that have prospered by being part of the films with him. So he attracts a lot of actors.
How do you know you're getting a good shot?
I've been doing this for a long time.
Well, my producer, Ian Bryce, said to me, well, you should get this kid Shia. And I said, I thought he was older. So he came in and he actually looked like a 16-year-old.
Now tell me what happened.
No, you said you'd pick me up, no questions asked.
I know, that was a deal.
Pop, remember how Great Grams pretty much flew over the cuckoo's nest?
Uh-huh.
Think it could have been passed on to me like a mutant with wiki gene? First I was like, wow, they're making a Transformers movie. It's insane, you know? They're gonna mess that up completely. They're gonna screw that up so bad. But when I first sat down with Mike, it was never the discussion of, let's talk about the robots. The first thing he wanted to talk about was, how do we make this real? How do we make these characters come across as honest?
Gentlemen, Bobby Bolivia, like the country, except without the Hershey squirts. How can I help you?
My son here is looking to buy his first car.
What I like about Shia is he's the everyday dude, but he's great at improv. and he's got a great comic wit.
Nice bike. Nice, right? It fits me.
Shai is one of the funniest people, just naturally. It's hard to get through scenes with him sometimes, though, because he's so good at improv, and he gets, like, funnier and funnier as he goes. I just didn't recognize you.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's understandable. You know, I just got back from fat camp. I lost like 80 pounds.
Oh,
So-
well, you know what? Good for you.
Yeah.
That's good for you.
Yeah, I learned a lot, and you know,
Makes
I
you a
just
stronger person.
yeah, physically and mentally.
Yeah. Did
And
you make
so-
friends?
But yeah, I mean, some of them died because you know diabetes is really chronic there. But I mean, like, there's 3 or 4 that I kept in contact with, and they're really good people. You know, because fat people aren't bad people, and that's one of the main things they teach you there.
It's hard for me to try to not laugh because I get in trouble because we won't ever make it through a scene.
I just put that light in.
Most importantly, I think he can keep up with Bay. Bay is constantly evolving the characters, is constantly throwing something different at you.
My first scene actually was with the dogs. It was like, welcome to Michael Bay's set. Release the hounds.
You need to stay hidden until I tell you, okay?
Yes.
But the trainer's worried about your ass. But we are insured at DreamWorks, the Paramount.
You know, it's your first day. Hey, welcome. And the whole crew's like, hey, nice to meet you, and action, and you're running.
The dogs started getting smart after a while, and instead of stopping the camera, the dogs kept chasing Shia. Fortunately, Shia ran past me about 30 miles an hour, and I was able to grab the long chain that was attached to the dog.
Thank God Shia's a fast runner, all right? Because that thing wasn't stopping. It was going to clamp down on that poor kid's ankle, I'm telling you.
That would have been the end of me in this film. It would have been the first day.
Bay talked about how hot Michaela was going to be. We talked about finding literally the most gorgeous 18-year-old there is out there, which I think we did. I think we did.
Now and action.
Oh, God, if Trent could just see me right now.
Yeah. Wait, what? You just say if Trent could see you right now?
Yeah, if Trent could see me right now. This is crazy.
We interviewed a lot of different young women for this, and Megan, I don't know, I just liked her look. I liked that no one really knew about her. I think Shia helped her out. I think that energy between them, I think it kind of works.
Hope I didn't get you stranded or anything like that.
That's fine.
So I was wondering if I could ride you home. I mean, listen, I was headed this way. Figured, you know, I'd ask you if you wanted to ride or not. You know, I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, don't say it's fine, just kind of a nod.
The only thing Mike asked me when I was reading with him and auditioning, he just asked me if I could run. He's like, can you run? I was like, well, yeah, I think so. And the other thing he asked me, he goes, do you have a nice stomach? And I said, well, in my opinion, yes, I do. So I figured, all right, I'm going to be running, hopefully not naked, but I'll be running in a belly shirt, maybe.
Megan did good with all the running and jumping and cars skidding and everything else going on. I think Megan really hung in there.
Drop.
Just from filming, I've put on like almost 10 pounds of muscle.
Hey, guys, give me a Fernie pad right here. Fernie pad, coming in.
All right, we're off to the roll camera. All right, here we go. Put it back on the next time. Here we go. Back out there.
That's good. That's good. Let's go to lunch.
My wife on?
Yes, Captain.
We needed a leading man.
Yeah.
We needed a leading man. There were lots of great actors out there, but leading man is very different from just a good actor, and Josh encompasses that.
I'm thinking I might win an Academy Award for this role.
No, I don't want a premium package! Come on! Come on! Fall back!
Best screaming in a movie.
Lennox!
Oh, water, thank you.
Give me chocolate.
You got chocolate? Say, give me chocolate. You got chocolate?
You got chocolate?
I liked him as a person because he was like very American, kind of no BS, just kind of just a nice guy.
Colonel Moore offered me the opportunity to go up in a T-38 today.
A lot of these military guys were very much like Josh, so I thought it worked really well.
Yeah, I'm with the top dog. You'll be fine.
I had to go through about 4 or 5 hours of training and You know, they basically tell you, okay, this is what's going to happen if you have to eject from the seats. I had to change shorts after I left training.
I get to fly in a T-38 today.
Not too snug, but not too loose. Pull them tight. And that snap rolls from bottom to top. Take a breath and hold it, please. And that's how it sits.
I am happy if I get a chance to show what we in the Air Force can do and what great airmen we have.
It was one of the most exciting things I've ever done. And he let me actually fly it a little bit. He's like, okay, turn it 10 degrees and we'll go down to 1,500 feet. I didn't throw up once.
Starnisha, Tanisha, and Keisha. They're laughing at my daughter's name?
Yeah.
Damn, get me home.
All right, cut. All right. All right, good. Tyrese, he paid me to be in this picture, so I took his money. Commonly, when you start movies, I make a mistake too, it just takes too long.
Michael Bay, it keeps everybody on edge so we can all stay sharp and on top of our game, because he's on top of his game. And, you know, if you don't step up, you get left by the wayside.
Ready? Action!
Hello, do you hear me? You hear me now? Hello, 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 hello. No, I got no bars. I got no bars.
I had a little situation right before I started filming. I just got sick, really sick. And I ended up missing like the first 3 days of filming. So to get back on the set after all of the warnings and precautions my doctor hit me with, and to be in Alamogordo was just crazy. 120-something degrees, white sand bouncing, the sun, bam, can't even look at the sand because it was so bright. Just hot, hot for no damn reason at all.
Cut. How done? Is that good? I've always wanted to work with John Turturro, and I'm really glad I did, and I was intimidated the first day working with him, and I got on with him very well.
Rolling. Ready, and action.
Your son's the great-grandson of Captain Archibald Wickety, is he not?
It's Witwicky.
Witwicky?
Witwicky.
Man to the premises, sir.
Don't laugh.
I've definitely been enjoying myself, so I feel like I've been able to be a little creative and imaginative. Sometimes you don't get a chance in a really big film.
Hey! Get that thing to stop, huh?
Looking at us, looking at us.
Get that thing to stop!
I love working with Turturro. He's a funny guy, and he does phenomenal impressions of people in the business, and he knows everyone.
He does a Scorsese imitation that'll just bring the house down.
Every film he ever makes is flashing through my mind. It's a challenge, the hustle, this. So my mind is Paul Newman, because how am I going to direct him?
She did it! She did it! She's the one you want! She's the criminal! Okay, look, I'll wear a wire, I'll turn state's evidence, I'll do whatever you need me to do. Okay? No, look, I'm not going to jail for you, or for anybody.
Michael will come in and tell us what he likes and what he wants conveyed in that, and let's just try to have some fun with it.
Come on, focus, Glenn.
The thing's gonna whiz by, ready, and zing!
Whoa! What was that? Oh, I got a family history of heart trouble.
He gives us the freedom, and we have fun, and Steven Spielberg was on set and said that he had been watching dailies.
Hello. How are you? I watch dailies, and I get my script and say, that's not.
Who wrote that? I did, Steven. You know, I didn't even charge you for it. I'm gonna charge you on the next one, though.
I'm Sam Witwicky.
Maggie, hey. Did you say Witwicky?
Yeah.
Both girls needed to be drop-dead gorgeous. And there's gorgeous with the right persona, too.
In this film, I wear like 6-inch stilettos, And I have been running away from aliens, keeping up with John Turturro, John Voight, Anthony, the whole gang in heels, I might add. I challenged Michael Bay to direct for 1 hour in those things.
Point it away from her just a little. Rotate the gun.
Rotate the gun.
There you go.
Just like, not too far. Okay, ready?
I'm kind of a pacifist, you know, like I don't really like the whole action movie gun thing. It's kind of very anti-weapon. But God, it was fun.
I'm a signals analyst.
Then send a signal then.
Come on, you punk!
Love John Voight because he's a great actor and he's a great guy to hang around with, and he's just a passionate guy. I like working with passionate people.
Okay, so I'm going to do this here. I'm going to come in here, and then I'm going to come in here, then I'll jump into here.
I'm a little old to be playing this kind of game for kids, but I love the physicality. I do it roll and tuck with a gun in my hand. It's funny. Everybody says, "Did you see what John did?" And I say, "Hey, fellas, I'm not going yet. I'm still in the game here."
Take that moment and make it a moment. Give me one chamber now!
John Voight's fast. He outran me, and he was in, like, penny loafer shoes. I don't know how he did that.
I'm making a documentary about John Voight. There he is in all his glory. That's the creature in his natural habitat. Man's a legend. Do a little wave, John. A little wave. A little wave for the camera. Would you be so kind? Both Johns. You talk to both of them, and geniuses, you know? Guys know how to do this.
I've had a good relationship with the U.S. military for many years, and I was dead set on getting the military to cooperate.
We went through basic training for 3 days at Fort Irwin and just outside of Barstow.
Good morning, gentlemen. We have a set call with the Army. Is everybody happy?
We took the guys out to the 50 caliber machine gun range. And some of the guys I don't think had ever even seen a weapon fire, and certainly had never fired one. We were fortunate enough to let them observe the firing, and we put them through a little safety course.
Your round will get into place, you'll let it forward, and then one shot at a time.
Gotcha. Put the first link in like that.
Right.
Close feature. Yeah, pull it to the rear, then let go. Let go. And then do it again. All right, you ready to rock and roll right now.
Good shot. Nice. All right.
Nyuk, nyuk, nyuk. Vietnam, Carlos Hathcock once made a kill from just under 2 miles away with one of these. He had a scope mounted on top of it. He's a Marine Corps sniper. Just under 2 miles, he made a shot.
2 miles away.
This thing has a maximum, the bullet will travel a maximum effective range of about 7,200 yards. They used to shoot down airplanes with these in World War II. Check this out.
This is my first one. 2, 3, 4, and then 5.
All right.
I got better.
Of course, they were fed in the field. They got to eat the MREs, and they got real food, too, but they got a little taste of what the military is all about.
For me.
MRE is a meal ready to eat. The entree is the main meal.
I can't tell which one's the main meal.
Probably the one in the cardboard
Okay.
box.
Okay.
We're cooking, and this is the MREs, which are surprisingly hot. What the colonel explained to me is that it's basically like Drano, but you don't eat the Drano. And then if you get the opportunity to ever do this, it smells like garlic farts. The chemical reaction smells like garlic farts, and at first, when I walked over there, I thought it was Tyrese. So I'm really glad it's not, because we're going to be working together for a long time.
All right. I'll trade you my my jalapeno cheese for your crackers and jelly.
Now that's a good deal. I'll take that deal.
Look at this. Chicken cavatelli. Just like spago.
What we call PPE. Yeah, PPE is personal protective equipment. This right here is called IBA, The individual body armor. This is the standard weapons that we use right here. It's called the standard M4.
What we're going to be going over is the formation you use before you enter a room.
So, can you play any Rolling Stones? Paint It Black?
We went to a mock Iraqi village. A unit was getting ready to deploy to Iraq, and we spent the afternoon with them and seeing what they do to prepare.
So they're teaching us how to stack and go into a room and clear the whole room.
Try to get into some of this. You know, that's what says.
You're looking out this way, you're looking out this way. Until they start to move, since you're the last man in the stack, turn around. All right? Contact. You want to meet them, all right? That way everybody knows they're all touched up. Here. All right? Hold on. Everybody slow. All right? When you're coming in, just like this, all right? You're trying to jump. Did I do this? Yeah, you did it. You did a little hop. Didn't I? You did a little hop. All right, you come in, you clear.
You did a little hop.
Does that feel more smooth for you guys?
Yeah, it does.
All right. I mean, because that
felt sexy.
Bullets travel down the wall 6 to 8 inches. All right. If a bullet hits right here and it's traveling down the wall, due to the spiral of the round, it will travel down that wall 6 to 8 inches. So you want to keep your ass off the wall 6 to 8 inches. All right.
Motherfucker! I wish you would! Try me!
All right. You scan the windows here. You scan the door. Windows, door, windows, door. Scan, scan.
Freeze! Nobody move! Status! 1 up, 2 up, 3 up, 4 up! All clear!
We worked our ass off, and sometimes between breaks we would go, well, where's Tyrese? He was in the van, air conditioning.
Hurry up! Everybody is leaving you! People are dying! You are killing them!
You really walked away with the respect for the amount of preparation that goes into, you know, being a soldier in the military.
Right over here. Great. Awesome.
Today is going to be all about an insertion into this village, okay?
I get involved in the training phase of the actors and making sure those guys at least are comfortable looking.
Move!
Saw Gunner, you are no good to us back here. You must be up front.
We wound up recruiting a bunch of active duty SEALs, so they're current in their tactical capabilities.
I see my weapons up here in front of my face. That's what we call the bubble, okay? I have control of my weapon. I can see my magazine well, okay?
Yep.
My weapon up here like this. I can still track my targets, whatever.
Right. It also acts as a bit of a shield, too, you know?
Shut up, dude.
Michael really wants to bring as much military realism into the movie as possible. A big part of that is to use military people to play military people.
Whatever. Yeah, okay, so the same sort of thing. We'll do is I'll wait a couple minutes. I'll ask for status of Spooky 1. Come back across and say Spooky 1, confirm hostile, target destroyed. Yeah.
The entire crew got speaking roles. Michael liked them and he changed the scene on the spot. We approved it, and they got speaking roles out of it.
Okay, let's send the A-10s, danger close situation, and make sure there's friendlies in the area within 1 kilometer.
Checking switch 1-1 to Hog 1-1 to strike.
The extras that we used from Holloman Air Base were off duty, and they were paid extras salaries.
The United States Air Force and Marines and Army, everybody.
I love you all dearly. I'm so proud of what you're doing for us. It's unbelievable, okay? Both here and over there. So just keep it up because you're well loved and you got to know that.
Typically an extra would not have any experience with a weapon. These guys are very experienced with weapons.
Stop the building!
I think I'm going to open you up more. Just go to your right. Go to your right over there. Probably had like 200 military and about 50 stunt people running and scattering, firing, and being chased by tumbling vehicles that were on cables. Ultimately, 0 is our key sweet spot. 0. If I give you a 5, 4, my guys will start firing and moving.
Right, gotcha.
5, 4, 3.
Even though it wasn't a real explosion, it certainly created the effect. And trust me, as a professional who knows all about blowing things up for real, we appreciate anything like this.
I like shooting stuff real on set. It seems to be a dying art. We put actors in situations where we know it's so safe, but it looks very dangerous.
Careful about putting your hands down when you go to that stop. Okay. Moving forward, right?
Weapon is hot. Full load. Don't worry about it. Here we go, man.
Take 2 a hole. Firing the hole.
Guys, look it up. Clear it out. Ready, and let's roll camera. Ready, 3, 2, 1, action. Action. Face a little bit more like coming in, all right? Yeah, I feel like
I keep like sliding off to the side radius was getting up from where it was getting back onto it. It was good. I think it can be better.
We try to put the audience inside the action. And the closer we get to it, and the more movies we've done together, the more that we capture that for the audience.
Told Shia, you know, you better get in shape for this.
I was at 130 when I got the role, and it wasn't like I pulled a Christian Bale and completely transformed, but I put on 25 pounds of muscle and then slimmed down throughout the filming. So it's not reassuring that they put bulletproof safety on the camera. And you're gonna be right in front of you. And right there also, you see? And make sure they protect the cameras, but actors, expendable.
We had this scene where he's facing off against Megatron.
Is it fear or courage that compels you, fleshling?
The producer, Ian Bryce, he knows how I like physical stuff, and he says, so we're gonna do that blue screen, right? I said, no, we're doing that real. He's, really? Really? I said, yeah, we're gonna put him out there.
They can build Optimus Prime. It's all good, bro. They can blow up the Pentagon. They can't find a way to keep Shia off the ledge. Right, Michael Bay?
All right, ready?
Yeah, well, just relocate.
I gotta tell you, it's scary going out there, because you literally have no safety net, and you just have these silly wires hanging on your hip. And mind you, I would never do this myself, ever, okay?
Oh, you're locked in. You can't fall. See that? You're bolted to a steel I-beam with another pole.
What I could is I could fall and scrape off the side and then they'd have to pull me up. That could happen. I'm not going to die, obviously, but I could scrape.
You know, this is fear factor. That's all it is. It's fear factor.
That's fear factor.
It's like, this is like
people don't die on fear factor.
This is another episode of Fear Factor. They do more hairier stuff with Fear Factor than this.
You're right, you're right, you're right. All right, let's do it. Oh, mother... Got it?
Kenny, bring him around this way, too. Come way out, towards us, to the other way. Towards us, towards us. Get the crane, the crane. Ready, roll camera. Ready, and action shot. Wide movements. You're never gonna get it! You're never gonna get this all sport, you know that!
I'm never gonna give you the all spark. I feel like a fruitcake saying that, Mike. It's a line.
Now you can see the robot in the side. Get the robot in the background.
Oh, whoa. No, 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 no. Okay. Mike!
Yeah?
Are these just close-ups?
No, they're wide. We see your face. We see your face and we're showing that it's you, and we're showing that it's not a platform. Because if it's just close ups, we can do that anywhere. That's lame.
Whoa, 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 whoa. No. Okay. Oh! No, I'm done. My voice is gone.
Shy is good. He's a good kid.
Got a lot of heart.
You gonna back up? 90% of the actors in this business could not do what we did on this film. They just wouldn't do it, you know? There's action stars who don't get up on the roof and do what we do. Oh! Oh, no.
Fight giant robots.
I want these robots to look like they fit in the real world and look like it's photo real right now.
The only thing that looks a little winky is that thing. It just looks like a...
Too thin?
Yeah, it just looks like surgery equipment.
All right, cool.
Okay, guys, that's about all the time. It's 12 o'clock. Time to go.
One more thing right here.
I got a lot more dude. You can't abuse me. You're abusing me. It's abusing my time.
That was the plan.
You're taking advantage.
So in terms of our effects, we had Industrial Lights and Magic that were heading up Transformers, and we had Digital Domain, which is an effects company that I recently purchased. Both companies did the work for this movie.
It's a bedroom.
ILM did 3/4, and Digital Domain did the last quarter.
For us in the visual effects world, having giant robots to animate had a lot of really great potential, something to really look forward to.
They assembled a great team up there. I heard we were the show that everyone wanted to be on because there were just tons of Transformer geeks. So it was like a mob session to get onto this show.
I thought I was a huge fan, but some of the people I've met here since we got the project just, blow me away.
You know, compared to some people out there, my collection is nothing. There's people who have 10 times what I have. I'd estimate I have about 600 or 700, I think. Working on this movie has been this great full circle experience for me, going from playing with the toys as a kid to getting to be a part of the movie version.
Once we're awarded the job, we start developing what the robots really will look like. What are all the pieces going to look like? And we start having modelers here at our place start modeling those things because it takes a good 4, 5, 6 months to build one robot.
Michael wanted a level of realism that required us to go much, much, much further with the complexity of the robots.
For instance, I've got a little Transformer that's on my desk. He has 51 pieces in him. Our Optimus in the movie has 10,108 parts that all have to be handmade. It's in the computer, but it gives you some idea of the level of complexity.
They take photographs of real automotive parts and they kind of scale things in.
All the Decepticons and Autobots together were about 60,000 pieces that all had to move.
If a frame has 3 robots in it, it takes 38 hours to render 1 frame of film. Nowadays, I'm doing less and less storyboards, and animatics are just becoming a better tool.
It's basically a Saturday morning cartoon of the movie. From that, they'll show us what's going to happen.
You can work out some very complicated camera moves, especially when you're working with a height difference of 28 feet, 40 feet.
So you automatically start embracing ideas of animation and physics and trying to incorporate that in your little mini movies.
It's a different process of filmmaking. This is the first film with Michael Bay that I've actually worked on where the animatics carry as much weight as the script.
Watch out! Michael is a genius at making these movies, and he knows when it's going to be live, and he knows when it's going to be visual effects. He likes to split it up where it's partially visual and a lot of live action.
Action!
A lot of directors don't like to go that way because it's easier to go the visual effects route.
The great thing about Michael is he tries to get so much in camera.
5, 4, 3,
because what we like to do is take our visual effects and really supplement what's possible to film. But the more real stuff that he has in each shot, the more believable it's going to be.
And ready in 3, 2, 1, jump.
The big challenge with Transformers is that we were working a lot with robots that weren't really there.
The robots got 15-foot-long feet, you know, and 8 feet wide. So you have these huge things that you have to tell the camera people about, tell the set people about. You can't have it that close. He's filling this whole volume.
You know, you try telling that to the guys when they arrive on set, and it's like, what?
At first, everybody kind of in shock. What? He's that big? But we had simple tools on set. We have our blueprint, the animatic. We have our cheat sheets, all the size of the robots.
They would bring these poles in, and everything else is acting and working around this pole that will soon be a robot.
We're literally using window washer poles to act with, you know, and it's a tough thing.
You gotta be in love with a pole. You know, that's been the stretch for me. It's a different form of acting.
Can you talk?
XM satellite radio, 130 digital channels of non-stop commercial-free music, news and entertainment.
So you talk through the radio then, right?
And a mighty voice will send a message summoning forth visitors from heaven.
We all became immediate fans of Shia LaBeouf because our robots are worth nothing if the actors don't interact with them properly.
Every day, all day long, my dialogue was with the A camera operator.
Okay, roll on them. Go to profile.
And our dialogue is with Michael all the time. Let's plan this, and you work out what the move will be.
Yeah, you're right where Shia was.
You're backing up, and we're gonna go 3, 2, 1, you're going. And the thing is, like, you're backing up like this on the ground because you're seeing it kind of go up in front of you, all right?
It was a learning curve, I must say. They got much better at it.
The surprising thing with a crew is how quickly they learn. I'm trying to help them imagine the unimaginable. Pretty soon, everybody starts to believe that they're there.
And then you guys are going to crawl back that way because
You want to get out of the way.
yeah, you don't want to get squished.
Michael was very insistent about the robots being energetic and being able to do all these acrobatic stunts.
We wanted to have fighters and guys that could maneuver in ways that you'd never seen before.
We went into this development phase of showing how agile we could make the robots and still convey a sense of weight. And we found that the closer things got to camera, the faster they could move. But when you see the entire robot at a further distance, we had to really slow things down to help sell their weight.
I used real stunt fighters. We do fight choreography. With Kenny's guys that were great fighters, different type of ninja type moves.
What we did was create a fighting style that represented the characters of each robot.
We would video these fights, not mocap, and it would help the animators get their kind of movements down and how we wanted to execute certain fighting scenes.
More than anyone, the animators are so involved in bringing these characters to life. And the nice thing is, you know, Michael's open to feedback.
I'd give him a lot of freedom. So what do you think? What do you think Optimus would do?
And they all know Transformers, you know, forward and backwards. And, you know, and you'll see things in the movie that reference, like, the old cartoon because they were such big fans of it.
Come on, Decepticon, punk!
We've learned Earth's languages through the World Wide Web.
We had to get into Michael's head about who these characters were.
Believe it or not, it's very hard to animate any type of emotion from a robot if you don't have things that move.
Michael stressed to us how important it was to get the performance to read in the eyes. The majority of the performance is sold in the eyes.
The more we added, it just made it more real and felt like there's a soul in there.
My name is Optimus Prime. We are autonomous robotic organisms from the planet Cybertron.
We have a lot of transforming robots. I think originally we started with 15 transformations. We have over 40 now in the film.
In the original cartoon, you could have robots kind of transform midair and you really wouldn't care about laws of physics.
This was almost too easy.
Every single transformation in this movie is done as if these transformations were actually taking place in real space and in real time.
There's not too many people in the world that could have figured this out. You know, it takes a real genius to be able to disassemble these things and put them back together in a different shape.
Yeah, we didn't want to have metal actually change shape. We wanted to find a place for it on the vehicle and find a place for it that corresponded with the robot.
We would really play to camera, like have all the important pieces show up, move, rotate, and go back, while we were shuffling a bunch of cards behind the scenes.
In the Optimus Transformation, this is the camera move, and what we would do on set is we would put a pole representing Optimus's height, and that's what we start with. The next thing we do is we match the camera move on the computer. So this is what Optimus would look like if he were just standing in the shot on the ground. So this is the transformation take. So it's all happening right in front of camera, in front of the audience's eyes. And you can see the detail. We go to the final rendered take. You know, there's cast car parts, there's engine pieces, there's gears, there's the headlights, the trailer hitch, tires. They could do whatever they wanted to each individual part.
Friends of mine that are not in this business are always kind of nonplussed when I tell them that we have to, in a computer, completely recreate every single situation that we're shooting in. What that means is our match mover, he's got to be able to come back here and completely reconstruct that in the computer, because the computer doesn't know where anything is.
We have spatial marks out on this area, and then Duncan, of course, measures each one later on. We know exactly where these spots were, because we have to rebuild it wherever he makes contact with either the ground or the object around it.
So when you see these guys stand on things and sit on things and bang against things, even the buildings that are, 10 stories tall all have to be mapped and measured on set.
There's a lot involved in making these vehicles and robots look real. We would go out and take pictures of the tire tread. The treads on our Optimus are the same as the treads on the real truck, and the detail down to the smallest bolt or the engine block, all that stuff. We were very meticulous. You want to see a car driving down the road and see it transform and watch it and say, well, those are real car parts. And to me, that's always the most fun and most challenging thing is, can we make this stuff look real?
We did huge packages of like texture reference and abrasion reference for even the robots internally, because we didn't want them to be so squeaky clean that they were uninteresting.
So on his hand, the surface was perfectly smooth, and then we add in these scratches and nicks and dings. The hardest part about this film is we don't have real robots, we have real cars, and the real cars, they're buffing.
You look at a real car that's just been washed and polished and shined up, and it almost looks like a CG car.
So the hard part was trying to find a balance of dirt and aging to add to the robots that didn't make it look implausible that they could have come from this very clean car.
So all the car paints have multiple layers. They have a colorful layer, which is right here. You see yellow reflections in here, but there's also a clear coat on top of it, which is supposed to protect it, but it also gives you a really white reflection. So you always see a colorful reflection next to a white reflection.
Probably 2 years ago, we couldn't do this movie because of lighting and ray tracing, which is a way you light things.
We spend a lot of time getting the lighting right. It's very complicated to get all the specularity.
Because I'm a lighting buff, and especially shooting so many car commercials. I would give dissertations at ILM of like, okay, if you see a car, it's gonna have a hot spot, it's got flat here, it's got more hot spots, it's got a long highlight there, and it's very confusing when you look at it. It's not like just one soft light on the car. So they had to really invent how to light these things so complicated to make them look like they're moving, and it's like reflecting car parts in a real world.
And so we're always trying to add that in, and we're trying to give that sort of look to our robots, and adding glints in what he calls pings, where you highlight certain areas.
These tiny little lights that are being reflected in the surfaces is what he's after. That was so interesting for us that I think most of us lighting people became road hazards because we're driving around looking at other cars.
The robots are shiny. They have glass, they have metal, they have painted surfaces. The entire environment has to reflect. So every single shot has an environment recorded for it that gets now projected onto the robot. Otherwise, it will look phony baloney.
We apply everything that we've gathered from set, which is really high-resolution environments, and everything is being reflected in the car panels. And obviously, these robots are moving around a lot, so we're getting a lot of reflective play on the surfaces. And there are major light sources in here, from the headlights, there's the overhead balloon, there are the eyeballs in there, which have to be glowy, the blinking lights. We have the blinker right here, and then the face and his mouth talking is being reflected in the hood of the car. And that is what really sells it at the end. That's sort of the icing on the cake for us.
Our job and our task to create the illusion that everything was just shot on the same day and that, these robots who aren't even real were there.
ILM is known for its really fabulous level of compositing. And these guys just look at the shot as artists all day long, judging whether or not that thing looks like it's really in there.
We start with a background plate, obviously, that's shot in production, and then we take computer-generated elements and we add them to the shot.
Michael is the type of guy that wants to shoot things messy, which I love, because you shoot the explosions or all the debris or anything on set. It makes it harder for us, but it's real. Let's say the bomb goes off next to the robot. We have to model the robot, but then we have to pull out that debris out of the plate and put him in there behind it, because he's got to fit into the background, but behind that debris that might be going.
It's very much a process for the compositor to get in there and make everything feel real again.
And that's what those guys do. They attack the shot and take it to the point where it's finished.
We shot a plate of the real helicopter, but in this case, it ended up being easier just to remove that helicopter. This is what the background plate was. We essentially removed the real helicopter and then replaced it with our own. So here, the compositor has actually added in the helicopter, layered the soldiers back over the top, added in some bullet hits for when the soldiers actually fire and hit blackout, and then enhanced muzzle flashes in some cases to try to just bring out the visual excitement of the scene. And then in the background here, where we had previously a blank tarmac, we've added more soldiers and just more firing as a texture of excitement, just to make it look like they're hitting them sort of with everything they've got.
My God.
Everyone is just amazed at what they've done with the robots in terms of just how real it looks, how complicated it is.
When you finally achieve a look where it really looks real, that's it. That's the biggest excitement of the day.
There are definitely days when we go in and we review the shots and one comes up and you just say, whoa, that's incredible. Like, it looks like a real Transformer.
That takes a high degree of artistry and technical support to make these things look that way.
Well, the appeal of this movie, goes back to my children's childhoods, because they would ask for these things on their birthdays, and I would get them Transformer toys, and then we would play on the floor. And I remember my own experience with Transformer toys, how much fun it was for me, and so this was a shared experience.
Transformers really gets its start in Japan with Takara, and it was a series of robot toys that transformed, and that's all they really were.
A couple of Hasbro executives went to Japan and saw this great idea and thought that there was something there, and decided that this would be a really cool concept if we could wrap a story around it.
In Japan, there was no good guy, bad guy. They didn't have home planet. They didn't have personalities or stories. So that came from those meetings in Hasbro, and the characters that are weapons or gear, let's make them the bad guys. All the rolling characters, let's make them the good guys. The name Autobots, Decepticons, came out of that. After that, we started with the animation company.
Transformers came out in '84. We weren't quite into girls yet, I don't think. So it was get home from school, Transformers, glass of milk, brownie, whatever, your snack. I don't know what your snack was or what you were allowed to eat.
Not a glass of milk and a brownie.
But we saw it right when it came out.
Many millions of years ago, on the planet Cybertron, life existed. But not life as we know it today. Intelligent robots that could think and feel inhabited the cities. They were called Autobots and Decepticons.
At the time, there had been new legislation that kind of opened up toy-related animation.
Decepticon rule forever!
So it was one of the first shows that what you saw as a toy was in the show.
The Transformers, robots in disguise.
Transformers has a passionate fan base.
Who's the biggest Transformer fan? Me.
Transformers.
More than meets the eye.
A lot of people remember Transformers from the 80s, which is when it was in its heyday, but it's actually been around ever since. And since 1984, Transformers has generated over $3 billion in retail sales, and that's, you know, one of the top franchises in history.
I have more than 1,000 Transformers at my house, fan since I was a kid.
I think it's just the mythos. I think that's what really got me into it after I was a kid watching the cartoon. Strong characters and just a very cool toy line to support it.
I'm a pretty big fan. I got my first toy when I was 2 years old, the first Transformer toy. I still have it.
About 75% of all adult men had a major Transformers experience in their lives, and that's true almost the world over. So you've got this great group of people who all grew up with the brand are now working on the creation of Transformers the movie.
If it meant something to you as a kid and you had an emotional response to it, that's valuable and that needs to be heard, period. So we kind of come at it from that place.
I was a fan. I mean, from my childhood was Yogi Bear and the Transformers movie.
It's over, Prime.
Was I die hard, like G1 all the way and like these people on Ain't It Cool News? No. Do I have a Transformers tattoo on my body somewhere? Probably not. Was I a fan? Extremely.
I did a lot of research and a lot of studying on it in the past year and a half. So that would make me definitely a Transformer head geek somehow.
From the very beginning, we knew we had fans following this. From the first time that a piece of art got out to the fact that Michael Bay's computer was hacked and the script got up online.
So I must say, so in fear of one of you guys stealing my computer to find out the real robot names, I decided that it'd be better to tell you this week or next week the true names, okay? Because I like my computer. It's got a lot of other secret on it as well. You could keep nothing secret on this movie. And the design started getting out on the internet. And people were saying, oh, Michael Bay, you wrecked my childhood. Damn you, Michael Bay.
Like most Transformers fans, when I first saw the designs of the movie, I was like, what? They changed everything. It's completely different. What's going on here?
I think a lot of fans hated me for it at first. After I read some of the posts that said they wanted to protest out of my office, they actually picked the wrong office because I moved. They didn't know my real address. So, and then the few little talkbacks where they said they want to hunt me down and kill me, I had a couple of those. But generally, I would take some of the constructive criticism of stuff they saw. I actually changed Megatron's face when they opposed to it that much. It was very important to get our teaser out there that was like more of a badass teaser to show that it's real. Not a cartoon. That teaser on Yahoo is the most downloaded teaser ever. That's crazy. So all of a sudden they see the headpiece. And they're like, oh, wow, uh-oh. Okay, that's starting to look really cool. You have to totally respect what's been created, and you can't, deviate. And I knew if I were to put these characters in the real world, they'd have to fit in the real world, and they have to be much more intricate.
We had kind of come to terms with the fact that we kind of respectfully acknowledged what had come before, but, there's a lot of logic that I had a problem with.
On Cybertron, they all walked around like with truck parts, transformed, and that just doesn't fly when you're trying to at least make it credible for someone who's never seen Transformers. So on Cybertron, they have to have, I created all of them having this endoskeleton, this underskin.
They're a technology that is beyond our understanding based on kind of a nanomolecular process. Each molecule, each cell is a machine unto itself.
So when they come to Earth, they come in these weird, pods. It's the endoskeleton wrapped up. They land, they unfurl.
And the notion is that when they arrive here, in order to truly just to exist on this planet in disguise, that they have the capacity to basically find a vehicle and replicate that vehicle based on their mass.
Alex and I decided we were going to try to avoid mass shifting, as we call it in the fandom. When Optimus Prime transforms from a truck into a robot, you want it to feel like it's the same size truck as going into that same size robot, and that there's no cheating going on.
Hasbro helped us select some of the robots.
And clearly we wanted that core cast of characters that people had known and loved. And that's why we kept talking about it as a G1-inspired story.
G1 is a fan term for Generation 1. So when people think back fondly on the 80s, nostalgia, Gen 1 is what comes to mind.
The characters that we knew had to be in the movie, without a doubt, were on the Autobot side, Optimus, Bumblebee, Jazz, and Ironhide. And on the Decepticon side, it had to be Megatron, Starscream.
And we knew we had to have someone kind of related to Soundwave. Frenzy's in there as kind of a representative of that.
I actually wanted more robots than we had, but it just ultimately got too expensive.
Actually, a few characters that we had contemplated that we designed product for.
We have a character here, RC, who's one of the only female robots in the Transformers lore, and she actually almost made it into the movie, but for some reason they couldn't quite get the plot line correct, so maybe we'll see her in future movies to come.
Hasbro wanted to see what we came up with. You know, they kind of left us completely alone for a long time.
They were really kind of, you know, let me do my thing, you know, and where I veered off, like with Optimus, we had to make the ears just a little bit bigger to get a little more of the samurai look.
If you think about where Transformers came from, the robot culture of Japan is in part based on the tradition of samurai armor.
We had some serious, I guess, Transformer, just total head geeks that have been, you know the lore backwards and forwards, that we would vet this stuff through.
Early on, the art department was working on for Optimus. You can see that he was a lot more blue, and even the vehicle parts were kind of disappearing. Particularly the tires were uncoiling, and those are just things that were going to become issues for us to make product of. One of the things that Transformers is not is morphing. They are transforming, so pieces have to go somewhere. On the product side, with real plastic, my team has physics to contend with. That did present kind of a design challenge that we threw back to the production team, and they realized that, and I think we got to a happy place for everybody.
Autobots, transform. Roll out.
Peter Cullen did the original voice, and still has a great voice. And then this one, give it a little bit more of a, you know, the easy Ironhide, you know what I mean?
When Peter Cullen was announced as the voice of Optimus, I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was awesome, and I thought it was the most unexpected little nod to the fans, and I think it showed a respect for that, for how much that voice defined the character.
They deserve to choose for themselves, then you will die with them.
When I was looking at faces, I said, I want Megatron to have an attitude like a Hugo Weaving.
You still fight for the weak.
Frank Welker, I kept putting his voice, the cartoon voice, to our gigantic Megatron, and it just didn't fit.
You fool, Starscream. You fool, Starscream. You fail me yet again, Starscream.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. You did a great job.
Thank you, Michael.
I appreciate you doing
It was a pleasure. Enjoy yourself.
Thanks.
Thank you.
The life-scale Bumblebee was only meant to be just kind of a see it for pieces, you know? It really can't hold up to the detail of going up close.
What they'll do is they make that robot in the computer. Then they give us that computer file, and we'll make that part.
This piece is called the Bumblebee. It supposedly transforms from a 2008 Camaro into this robot here. How it's going to do that, I have no idea.
There's 150 single parts on that robot. The whole robot was sculptured out of foam We took molds off of them, made fiberglass parts, and when it stands up, it's actually about 18 feet tall.
That's too far, huh?
Too far? So we'll put this away here. We need
to make a yoke in there with the clincher. That clincher will probably hold that.
This thing cost $75,000 to paint. It required a special 4-layer paint because it matches the car. Me and Bumblebee are starting to get to be real close.
When we got near the robot, it was just like, no way. And you start walking, you're getting closer and closer, and you start seeing the body and the torso and the head, and it's just nuts. It was nuts. Silence.
The robot can't move on camera, but we can position it in any position that Michael needs it. And so it's a really good guide for them.
I'm operating the Bumblebee airbags for movement.
Hey, camera! Marker! See, Mark? Action!
No! My favorite Transformer is Bumblebee.
It's always been Bumblebee.
My favorite Transformer now, I think, is Starscream.
Megatron is dead! Humans have taken it.
I think Ironhide is probably my favorite.
Stand back. You feeling lucky?
I like Optimus Prime. I think everybody likes the idea of taking something that you're familiar with and turning it into something that you're not as familiar with, like a 18-wheeler semi into Optimus Prime. And so that was the beginning.
I joined Hasbro in 2000, and the company was in some degree of difficulty. So we were focusing back on our core brands, and Transformers was one of those brands that we began to really rethink about, and how do we reignite this brand for future generations.
I was aware of the TV show. I used to watch it with the kids. But I thought, this is a movie waiting to come out and be dusted off and to be reinvented as a live-action experience.
I'm going to end your hunger once and for all.
We were initially really resistant to the idea of doing it because it's something that we had cared about as kids, and that's always kind of a, it's on the one hand really exciting to take that challenge, and on the other hand you go like, I don't want to screw this up.
The first thing that I sat down with the writers was an idea to make this a story about a boy in his car, because that's something everybody can relate to.
Bumblebee, head for the underground parking entrance.
Transformers were always about robots in disguise and more than meets the eye. And that more than meets the eye could mean more than just the robots. More than meets the eye could mean something about the human characters.
But there were very few humans that we could draw from. So it meant coming up with characters that didn't exist before.
In the original cartoon, there was a mechanic character who was kind of the basis for Sam.
We kind of looked to movies like E.T. for the way that Elliot became the audience in how we were experiencing the wonder and the magic of E.T. coming to Earth. Our first draft actually was just focused on the kids.
That's awesome.
Steven Spielberg called me right when I was finishing The Island, and he said, I'd like to do Transformers, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'll think about it. Hung up. I'm not doing that movie. That's what I said to myself. I'm not doing a toy movie. I thought about it, and I went to Hasbro in Rhode Island, and they put me through Transformers school.
This is the classic G1 Optimus Prime, very much like it was made in the 80s. He had a very simple transformation. Very easy to get from vehicle to robot. We did the full pitch. Robots are not all equal. They're alive, they're sentient men, they have feelings, they have allegiances, there's backstory, there's a conflict, that they are fleshed out characters, and that we've had so many eras, and there's so much potential that they could pull from to make whatever kind of movie they wanted to make.
Something in Transformers just struck me when I was sitting there. I said to myself, if you can make this really real and edgy, and I saw a couple images that were towards the direction that they would like to take this, and I'm like, that's really interesting. So I think right then and there, I was kind of sold on trying to make this idea work.
Michael Bay was born to direct Transformers. He was the perfect fit for this concept?
I hired a team, probably about 25 artists, different people from different kind of expertise, and we were starting to design robots. There was apparently a script. I hear it was way too kiddie. No one wanted me to read it because they thought I would quit right then and there.
Michael has incredible instincts about what will please an audience. And so as we were developing the script, we would run ideas by him and we'd say, what do you think about this?
I knew I wanted to make it very credible and serious, and I told these guys I wanted to broaden it out and make it so that it had a little more global impact.
Much like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Richard Dreyfuss' story is clearly the centerpiece, as Shia LaBeouf's story is the centerpiece of our movie. But then we have two other groups of humans that we follow quite closely.
I kept putting in things of different action stuff that I saw, and what we do is that we sit down, we bat it around, and they see what I'm really liking and not liking.
Once he got into the rhythm of it, he started imagining these incredible sequences. And a lot of what we ended up doing action-wise was very collaborative.
He is the sickest action director on the planet. That is something that he is. He's not Ilya Kazan, and Mike will tell you that.
That's funny. Look at it. Robots, there's a missile coming right down that street down there. Gonna hit that truck right there. The robots are holding it up.
Okay, roll cameras.
Roll armos. Speed.
Ready?
Ready? And 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Michael staged huge, logistically complicated scenes of massive destruction and explosions. And even when I was watching those dailies without the actual Transformers there, it was just eye candy.
In this movie, Michael is the star, and Michael is so much fun.
We line everything up with a football.
Ready and hike! 10, 3, 2, 1, bam!
Does that work?
Thank you very much.
You got the timing?
That's perfect.
Action!
I think bayham's a good word for working with Michael. I mean, we have to be prepared to go in any direction.
Get the armor. Cut!
Might show up and he might say, today I want to flip a car. You have to be 3 steps ahead of Michael.
Smells good.
You hear on the walking when I'm walking in, bass coming in, he's coming in hot, he's coming in hot.
Here we go. Ready?
You know, it's all wired because I'm ready to go. When I come into the set, I want to start shooting.
Come on cameras, let's go!
He's got a tireless kind of energy, and I understood that that's how he gets into it, and then he's into it. It's like an actor getting into character.
Jim, lift him up again and do it again, do it again. Keep rolling, ready? Okay! Oh, God, please don't kill me, please, please! Keep moving up, moving up, moving up, moving up. Okay. Jim, lift him up again and do it again, do it again. Keep rolling, ready?
Mike needs people who can accommodate his needs, and you need to be able to adapt. You can't be the guy who's got the script notes and the ledger, and no, I can't do that, because in the next scene, you can't be that guy. Mike will eat you alive.
This ain't gonna...
It ain't gonna trust me, I saw it. I'd stand under it. Trust me, I said. Ready? 3, 2, 1, action!
What he is he's very honest, he's very blunt, he's very direct, he's very opinionated.
Give me a shot, Dave.
And he has an amazing visual sense of film.
Yeah!
He likes to use the megaphone once in a while.
Ready and rolling cameras. 3, 2, 1. Stay there, behind the pillar. No, you're going wrong way. The other way, other way. God, he doesn't pay attention to what we're shooting.
The thing about it is it's never personal.
Oh.
What are you gonna do? What
do you do? Throw him? Yeah, buddy. Really?
Yeah, Randy.
What?
Worked with a crew, many of the same people for 10, 15 years. And so they know my style, they know my pace.
Hey, Mike, let me get a fire.